next hour or so. Yeah, are we good? We are good. So calling the regular meeting of the board of directors of Peninsula Clean Energy to order for June 27th. Please note, this meeting will be held in a hybrid format with both in-person and Zoom participation, with option for the public. Board members shall appear in person. But we haven't moved. Calling the meeting to order, we have no AB 2449 participants today. Please note that Peninsula Clean Energy Board of Director meetings are a limited public forum, and all public comments must relate to something that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. If comments do not relate to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, we will stop the comments and move on to the next speaker. General counsel will assist in identifying comments that are not related to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board.
Thank you. When I call your jurisdiction, please state your name. San Mateo County. San Mateo County.
Rick DeGolia.
Tom Kuhn.
First name, Pauline Mackin. First name. Palma, Daly City. East Palo Alto, Foster City, Half Moon Bay, Hillsborough, Los Baños. We'll circle back to Los Baños. Menlo Park, Betsy Natch, Millbrae, Pacifica,
Tiger Big Stick.
Portola Valley,
Jeff Al.
Redwood City,
Aiken.
San Bruno,
Marty Medina.
San Carlos,
John Dugan.
San Mateo,
Adam Lorraine.
South San Francisco, Woodside, and then circling back to Los Baños, San Mateo County, Burlingame, Millbrae, South San Francisco, Woodside. Okay, we have a quorum.
Fantastic. So action sets the agenda and to approve the consent agenda items.
Moved. Second.
Indy and
Romero.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
All in favor?
We have to.
Oh, we have to go.
Oh, wait, we don't?
So our Los Banos alternate has just joined the meeting. So we didn't include him in the roll call, but we could swear him in.
But you know what? We haven't sworn him in yet.
That
I think that that's. Can swear him in now, and then we'll have to do roll call after that.
Okay. Is there any public comment on the agenda or consent items? Seeing none, hearing none. Council.
Yes, so, all right. So, I have the Los Banos person, Josh Pinheiro. Are you there?
Josh Pinheiro, our city manager.
So I'm gonna go ahead and swear you in. Are you there? Oh, great.
There you go.
I'm going, yep, you know you got it the right hand. So I'm gonna say aye. And then you're gonna repeat after me, except after I say aye, you're gonna say your name, not my name. So.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey. Hey.
I think that's Sean. Is that Sean? I think so.
Yes, hi. How are
Hey,
you?
Sean. Good to see you.
You too. We're trying to swear you in, man.
You ready to be sworn in?
I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right, so so I and then state your name.
I, Josh Pinheiro,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
Constitution of the State of California,
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
And now we have to roll call.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Now on to our regular agenda. Starting with our chair report. Donna will be here hopefully soon, and she can provide the report. Moving on, your CEO report.
Printer only would copy this page, not regular agenda, so. Not very good.
Oh, summer, spring, and this thing back up.
See it?
Okay, we go to the beginning. There we go. All right. Okay, so I have a really fun grab bag of items to report out this evening since we met last month. The first is to let you know that you may recall that we had our first congressional earmark request went in earlier this spring. Mark Hirschman and I traveled to Washington, DC, and I'm glad to report that the $2 million request for low-income home upgrades was picked up by both Senators Padilla and Butler to be in their Housing, Transportation, and Urban Development Appropriations Bill. It has a ways to travel, so, but I do feel like this is a great first step, and we will keep you posted as to whether or not it actually ultimately is funded and approved. But really great news that our two senators are both involved. So then next, regulatory policy wins support low income and disadvantaged communities. I would like to just stop at the phrase regulatory policy wins and acknowledge that there's some good stuff happening at the commission, because usually it's more difficult news. The first is to let you know that the community solar green tariff program was turned out to just be way too complex, too small, expensive. And so that particular program was retired, and thus allowing for a 30% expansion in what we call DAC GT, that's Disadvantaged Community Green Tariff. PCE is a program administrator for DAC GT. Under that program, customers who are enrolled in CareFera receive 100% solar energy at an additional 20% discount on their bill. So they're receiving not only the CareFera rate, but an additional 20% off if they live in a California designated DAC or disadvantaged community. And a number of our customers do. We now have about 2,000 PCE customers that are enrolled in DAC GT. With this expansion, we'll be able to enroll another 1,000, bringing the benefit to 3,000 total customers. The second win is the authorization of a new program. A number of our folks advocated for this, including our new Associate Director of Strategy and Innovation, Yana Kovacic. I need to learn her last name. But at any rate, and Matthew Rutherford and several other people on our regulatory team. The Community Renewable Energy Program is, I don't know when it's actually going to come online, but essentially it is providing for federal and state funding for low-income community solar plus storage projects. It'll be set up as a feed-in tariff. The projects need to be located in a disadvantaged community. It's administered by the PUC. And what it may help us do is build out some additional local capacity as these projects are enabled through PCE. So that is all good news, and hats off to our regulatory team for being involved in that.
Can I add one?
Please do. Yes.
So as Sean mentioned, the appropriations request from Senators Butler and Padilla is in early stages. So if you know anyone in their offices or staff, including the senators, if you could please talk to Mark at some point tonight, we would appreciate your help in something.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, I also want to let you know that in April, we had a successful NEM cash out. So sorry that that text is small there, but the total cash out this year was almost $2.8 million, of which the average cash out for a commercial customer was approximately $1,300, and the average residential cash out was approximately just a little over $200, almost $210. So and a lot of that is supporting low income, sorry, not low income, but NEM customers living in Los Banos. So all of that went well this year. Next slide. I can do it. Okay. I did want to also bring your attention to some really robust DEAI presentations that we've had internally. We have a DEAI council comprised of various staff members, and in the past month, we've had 3 events. One is the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Panel. That was organized by our own Vanessa Shin. Mayor Fung participated in that, so thank you very much for that. We also have participation from 2 other local nonprofits who we work with closely. We also had a speaker come and talk to us about Juneteenth, and that was set up by Shoshana Clara and Stephanie Elmore on our team. The speaker that day was Dr. Satterwhite, who's an East Palo Alto luminary and really has been active, and we learned a lot, not only about sort of the history of East Palo Alto, but also what it means, what Juneteenth means. And I will also tell you that PCE has now designated that a federal, going along with the federal holiday, and folks did have the day off. We also, just this past week, had a panel celebrating Pride Month set up by Justin Pine and Doug Carpa on our team. And we had guest speaker Hannah Duress come to speak to us. She's done all kinds of different things in her career, but most recently worked with the County of San Mateo and now is a consultant. So lots of learning going on. And I do want to just say thank you to the DEAI Council for bringing that to us. Next up is the 2026/27 facilities planning. This really is just an awareness item for you. I think I have reported previously that the lease on this office space here expires in the fall of 2026. That's going to go by quickly. And so we have formed an internal facilities committee that is, lots of people are participating, but ultimately will be led by Nellie when she gets back from maternity leave. We had our quarterly staff meeting up at Sonoma Clean Power's offices and visited their advanced energy center, because there is a possibility that we might like to do something similar to that. We'll see, you know, kind of what comes out of it. So our first body of work is just collecting information, collecting data, putting together some feasibility analysis so that we can come back to probably the executive committee first and then to the board for approvals along the way. But just so you know, we're thinking about it and we are launching the effort. Lots of great news in the programs area. We have passed the 500 loan mark for our 0% loans on bill financing. The really cool thing about that is that we have 66 contractors participating. And so that has had the ancillary benefit of bringing contractors along into the fold to participate in getting electrification projects done for our customers. I'm also really happy to report we have 0 default on that program. That was a concern that we had. And we've had no problem whatsoever. So I don't know what our maximum is on that. I'll have to check back with Raphael, but the program has far exceeded initial estimates. For the member agency energy grants, you can see the list of cities up there that have submitted applications. Really do want to encourage all the rest of you guys to meet with your staff and get your applications in for that money. The deadline for the local government electrification grants and loan program has been extended to July 3rd. So that would be another one to please pass along to your internal staff. We launched our 3rd round of e-bikes funding and rebates. So far, we have 340 applications that came through the door in 2 weeks. 30 bikes have already been purchased. We expect that that will sell out or be fully subscribed here within the next few weeks. Last but not least, Gov PV round 2, we have 12 of the 23 PPAs signed so far. So that team is doing a great job just moving around and getting those through the door. And the next system to go live will be San Bruno's Aquatic Center in August. So that, oh wait, we have a little bit of staffing. Oh, sorry, Mark, legislative real quick.
New directors and things are getting hot and spicy in Sacramento, but we do have a state budget. The legislature passed it last night, and we expect that's not the end of the story. There will be trailer bills throughout the summer. Legislature through the end of August years, so we anticipate, and there was no energy trailer bill yesterday, so we anticipate something next 2 months. The items that are referenced in your packet is the $400 million dispute between the governor and the legislature for further funding of the loan PG&E for Diablo Canyon. That was actually included in the budget package that was passed last night. About that if you'd like. Also of note, you may recall from last year, there was a lot of to do over a central procurement entity that would be in the Department of Water Resources for certain types of projects. That was a big topic of conversation for us. Interestingly, the budget has been amended so that the 23-24 budget for that effort was pared back, and 32 million that had originally been allocated. Only 500,000 for last year, 9.5 million for the coming year, and then 22 million. So clearly they're ramping that up with alacrity. There was also well, one big note in the budget is that there appears to be about $390 million in federal funding through the Investment and Jobs Act, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. And while we do have a state budget, we don't yet have a climate fund agreed upon. You recall last month I told you there was a 27th drop dead date. Get that on the ballot. Apparently, the legislature doesn't have that drop dead date, and they can extend the deadline. So we are learning that it could be done as soon as next week. It must be in print 72 hours in advance of the vote. And so if they're going to get a deal, about that, but haven't seen that yet. July 3 closed session will begin the summer recess for the legislature. They'll be back in August. And questions?
Thank you, Mark.
All right, thanks so much.
Okay, we are almost done with council briefings. You wouldn't know it by looking at this. But right now I'm slated to be complete by the end of September. That will mean that I was able to come to all of your councils. The only place we've not heard from is Oma. So we're still trying to get that scheduled. But you can take a look there and see when I'll be ready to visit you. Staffing updates. So we've had a number of new staff that have started and are soon to start. Justin Kudo, our Associate Director of Rates and Strategy, started just this week. He comes to us from Marin Clean Energy. Andy Wang, starting next week, our data engineer in the IT department. Stephanie Elmore, you all met, I think, last month. Was a contract for hire and is now accepted our offer to join our team on a full-time basis. Gabby Ibarra, our buildings program concierge, our electrification concierge, will be starting mid-July. And we have 4 interns this summer who have all gotten started with us, and it's going well. Promotions have gone out to Sarah Mata, our senior manager now of Power Resources. Mehdi Shabrari, sorry, Mehdi, senior manager of planning and analytics. And Vanessa Shin, who's gotten promoted to associate manager, community relations. And we have 1 posted position. Again, that is starting off as a contract role, potentially to hire if we end up with the funding necessary to support the position. Upcoming meetings. So just a reminder, we will not be having any meetings in July. So those are the list of meetings for you in August. And that concludes my report.
Fantastic. Are there any public comment, Brianna?
No.
Okay, public comment. Moving on then to the CAC report.
Carol's on.
Yes,
Sheila?
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hello, board. The CAC met Thursday, June 13th, and was pleased to witness the swearing in of new members Remy Tan of Pacifica and John McKenna from Menlo Park, as well as previous members beginning new terms. Joseph Chen of San Bruno will be sworn in during our August meeting. Now the committee needs only a member from Los Banos to be complete. We invested time in learning about each other as each member introduced themselves to the committee, sharing the experience, interests, and hopes that they bring to the CAC. Yana Kopichak-Lunda, Associate Director of Innovation Strategy, explained how PCE's proposed self-generation incentive program would help qualified customers install standalone storage or solar plus storage projects. After an enthusiastic question and answer session with her, the CAC voted to endorse the program and encourage staff to explore ways to include multifamily buildings and other rental properties. Vanessa Shin presented the CAC working groups for 2024-25, recently approved by this board. Members attending signed up for 4 different groups focusing on strategic planning, building electrification programs, transportation electrification programs, and marketing strategy. Signups will continue. Kirsten Andrew Schwinn updated us on implementation of the Diversity, Equity, Accessibility, and Inclusion Action Plan. Members congratulated Kirsten on the amount of implementation work accomplished to date. And as Sean just mentioned, Vanessa shared that the e-bike program, the e-bikes for everyone program, launched and applications were pouring in. This completes my report. Are there any questions that I could answer?
Okay. Any public comment? No public comment. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, to Nick. I'm like, he's looking at me.
Yeah, now we're here with the budget.
Great, thanks, sorry. Evening, everyone. So I'm gonna go through a review of our fiscal year 2025 budget. As a reminder, we are a June fiscal year end, so we're talking the next 12 months. So when I use the word 2025, really half of 24 and half of 25, it ends in June of next year. Before I get into the detail, I thought it'd be helpful to sort of give a little background of how we got where we are today. We started this process back in March, which is our normal time, meeting with all the directors, their teams, working through and building out their detailed department budgets. There was a lot of iterating, as you can imagine. We met individually with directors, we actually met as a team, we prioritize, we look for opportunities to reduce costs where possible. We pulled all that together and presented a first draft of the budget to the Audit and Finance Committee in May. They really had no significant comments or issues and were supportive of the budget, keeping in mind that it was a draft at the time. Over the next month, we iterated, refined the budget with additional information. I would say no huge changes over that month. The one somewhat significant change we made is that we did refine our load forecast based on additional modeling that we had done and some more advanced analytics, and we ended up reducing our load forecast by about 2%. That had the result of reducing revenue and cost by a similar amount. So net, it wasn't a huge change, and there were some other slight modifications. We presented that revised budget to the executive committee a couple weeks ago. They were very supportive and unanimously recommended approval of that budget to the board of directors, which is what we're presenting today. Since that time, we've refined the budget a little bit, minor tweaks, nothing significant, just again, additional information to make sure we have the latest and greatest assumptions. So that is what I'm going to be presenting today. Before we get into it, I do want to remind everyone that we moved on to a sort of a hybrid cost of service ratings methodology, rate setting methodology. It was approved by the board, I think a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago. So what that means, as you're all obviously aware, is that we are basically using our cost profile to set how much revenue we want to collect and in a sense what those rates would be from our customers. So to do that exercise, what we basically do, and I'll walk you through basically the same sequencing that we went through, is the first thing is we have to determine what our cost profile is. How much does it cost to provide our essential services to our customers, to run the agencies, to invest in the programs that we want to support. So I'll walk through all those cost numbers, and then from there, I'll show you how we build up revenues and essentially rates that we charge customers and what that means relative to PG&E's rates. So first cost that I wanted to cover is cost of energy. This is by far and away our largest cost component. I think it represents almost 90% of our total costs. Before I get started, and I apologize that this, as I mentioned, this has been presented to the finance committee and the executive committee. So you probably heard this presentation, 3 times, maybe some of you, or there's a little overlap. Donna's not here. She would be the only one, I guess, who has heard it 3 times. So I apologize if it's repetitive. Hopefully it's gotten a little better and refined. But for those of you who haven't seen this page, just to focus your eyes on what you're seeing, and it's the same format for each of the pages. At the top, I've listed each of the cost categories. So to this page, it's the cost of energy, and you see I've listed the 2023 actual results, just as a point of comparison. The 2024 forecast, so this is where we think we are going to land for this current year, which actually ends tomorrow. This includes 10 months of actual and 2 months of forecast. And then the most important number is the 2025 budget, and that's what we're seeking approval of today. And then we have a variance both in dollars amount as well as percentage. So just to get your eyes focused, it's going to be a similar format for all the pages. So you can see the box or the number that I've boxed of the increase year over year of almost $100 million. That's 29% increase year over year. I am guessing that's not a huge surprise to this team. There's been several presentations from Roy over the last few meetings talking about the increased costs, the pressures we're seeing, so hopefully not a big surprise. The main driver of that increase is really the costs of the various attributes: RECs, GHG-free products, and capacity, that's resource adequacy prices. You can see the percentage increase, that single 1 year, year-over-year increase of 69%, 452%, and 46% increase. So this is what we're seeing in the market, and that is by far and away the largest driver of the almost $100 million increase year over year. We are seeing some increase in the price of energy prices, 9%, so not insignificant, but it pales in comparison to the other increases. We are seeing some load increase this year. I mentioned that it's a little lower than we were forecasting before, but we are now forecasting about a 5% increase in load. 2% of that is, organic, sort of normalized weather, organic growth type growth that we probably expect to see every year. And then this year, and I'm not sure I would expect this to continue every year, we are expecting about 3% increase in commercial load, which we've talked about in this meeting, the most recent of which was the San Mateo Community College District. So that's driving about a 3%. So.
Can I just ask you, is there any post-COVID that's part of that 3% of industry getting back up to speed? Or is it just, if we went back to 2019, that 3% is actually brand new?
It's new.
Yeah,
It's new
It
customers.
is new.
It's customers that weren't on either us or PG&E, and we're winning some business.
Yeah, the 3%, the new commercial load is new customers that were, I think, largely direct access customers of PG&E before it. The 2% organic growth, normalized weather, some of that is, again, normalized weather. This current year we're in was a really mild summer, which is a year ago summer. And so that depressed load that year. So we're expecting, you never know, a more normalized weather this coming 12 months. That's driving some of that increase. And some of it is just increased economic activity. So some of it could be coming out of COVID, although we're now probably a couple of years past that. I don't know how much of this is in there. I don't know, Roy, if you add anything.
I have a question.
Sure.
So the GHG free increase is dramatic. I mean, we've talked about this, we've heard it, but the more you see it, the more difficult it is to swallow it. Is that because of a reduced water flow into the dams? I mean, this energy mostly comes from the Pacific Northwest, right? And is that just increased hydro cost, or is it demand that's causing the increase?
Well, there's a couple things in my. Thank you. So there's a couple things that happened in the Pacific Northwest in the last 2 years. One is that they started a cap and trade system. So now any large hydro that is exported from the Pacific Northwest has an extra fee. And prices in the Pacific Northwest are much higher than in CAISO. So again, producers up there who want to export to CAISO have to take a loss on the CAISO market prices. So this all goes together to say the supplies that we used to source from outside of California are no longer willing to sell into California. And now we're limited to California and a little bit of Colorado River supplies.
So that is, I mean, I understand the cap and trade issue in the Pacific Northwest. That's an endemic issue to the Pacific Northwest, but is there a demand supply issue? There's more demand from California, because if there was less demand, no matter what they were doing, it couldn't drive the price like crazy.
Rick, I think there is also a demand issue because the REC prices has gone up so much. It has the GHG product is an alternative to the REC. So if an entity wants to claim they're clean rather than renewable, which sometimes it's hard to distinguish the two, then they can choose to purchase greenhouse gas attributes rather than REC attributes, which is half the price. So that becomes a natural alternative. So I think on the demand side, there's also that influence.
Yeah, makes sense.
The only other thing I'll mention on this page, the last bullet point, is there is about $30 million or about 7% contingency in these numbers. We think that's an appropriate amount given where we are in the year and our open positions. But obviously those are very volatile markets, and we want to make sure that we had appropriate coverage and cushion there. The next largest cost is our programs, which you're all very familiar with. Again, we're seeing same format as the last page, and we're seeing again a significant increase. That'll be a common theme you'll hear me say. Not as large on a dollar amount, so $13 million, but that's almost a near doubling year over year from about $14 million to $27 million. Again, shouldn't be, or hopefully not a huge surprise to this team. We've talked about a lot of these programs. Some of this is driven by the surplus fund allocation that this board approved 6 or 9 months ago for member agency grants and school building electrification. We're rolling out great new programs, government building electrification, turnkey building electrification, our Resi PV plus storage program, and we're seeing a significant ramp up in our existing programs. You know, if you talk to Raphael, who manages this, I think he would say we're at this inflection point where in the past, our programs spend has been more limited by demand. And it was almost harder to spend the money. And we're now at this point where we are actually limited by supply, the amount of money we have to, there's more demand for these programs that we can almost meet. I've listed below, there are a lot of numbers there, but you can kind of see if you're interested where the money is going of the 27 million. Most of it is into buildings, but you can see we're continuing to invest in our EV program, and you can see the $3 million of member agency grants, which I know Sean mentioned on a prior page, some of the communities that have requested those already or made filings. In addition to expenses, we are seeing some revenue coming in from these programs, not a huge amount, but about $5 million to offset some of those expenses. This will be lumpy, but this is what we expect in the coming year from Flex Market and Menlo Park grant, which this board is aware of. But the other thing I want to highlight on this page is the significant capital outlays that we're making for programs. This is dominated by the Gov PV program. Mostly in these numbers, the $21.1 million there, that's mostly for tranche 2 of the 20 or so sites that we're moving forward with. So that's a huge investment we're making. We've also got our Gov BE program, our on-bill financing program. So a lot of capital being spent that doesn't show up on the income statement, but it is cash outlays. We do expect that cash to come back, so to speak, to recycle. And you can see that's the inflow there. So you know, it'll take a while to even out, but we are seeing some inflow in the next year of about $1.5 million. Next category of cost, our third largest, is compensation. This includes salary as well as benefits. Again, seeing a large increase here of about 39%. This is driven by 2 factors. By far and away, the largest driver is the increase in headcount. We added 14 new headcount this current fiscal year. And so that's driving the increase from 24 to 25 because not all those people started on day 1. They came in throughout the year. So it's leading to a year-over-year increase. We are also proposing 8 new headcount for this coming fiscal year. 4 of those are in the approved in-house customer contact center, which the board approved. I think that was last meeting. And then 4 additional headcount throughout the agency in power resources, admin, programs, and I think marketing is the last one. We also want to make sure we're paying our employees a fair salary and that they can live in our community. And so are, as always, proposing additional salary increases. It averages out to about 5% merit plus COLA. Plus, we engaged Mercer for we did a compensation benchmarking study. We don't expect to do this every year, but we wanted to make sure we were comparable with our peers and other like industries. And so we are making selective one-time market adjustments that's in this number. All the other cost categories I put on this one page, they're obviously, they don't add up, they sort of pale in comparison to the other categories, but I wanted everyone to get a full picture of where our costs are going. A lot of numbers on this page. I tried to put a red box around sort of where we're seeing the largest increases from 2024 to 2025. That's across consultants, primarily to support the additional power resources work, a lot of programs, the contracting that they're doing there. We are also anticipating additional legal support, again, largely for power resources. A lot of contracting going on there. We are also increasing our activity on the federal lobbying side. We're expecting additional sort of branding and communication expenses, one of which costs was actually in the consent items today. Looking to increase our marketing spend, redo our website support, and additional community and school grants. And then finally, we want to make sure we are utilizing the latest and greatest technology and being as efficient as possible. So we're utilizing a variety of softwares, we're increasing our use of software, and so we are seeing those costs increase across all the departments. So those are all.
Question,
Yeah.
the G&A cost, which is the largest increase, that's mostly in the salary and benefits that we've
No.
already seen, or that's additional?
That's software, most of that is the software cost. These numbers do not include compensation, that was on the prior page, that's about 1.3, I think, of the 1.6 is software and costs. So those are all the costs. So next we need to calculate what revenue we need to collect to cover those costs. So on this page, I'll focus you on the 2025 column. Electricity sales, about $52 million. The way that number is calculated is we are seeing increased load, as I mentioned, about 5%, that is driving additional sales. But the main driver of that dollar amount is what we think is needed to cover the costs. So all the costs that I went through, we want to make sure that we are collecting enough revenue to cover those costs. If we were to just end right there, the resulting rates to our customers would be at about a 3% discount to PG&E. Good, but not great, and we think we can do better. So what we are recommending and proposing here is utilize, this current year that we're in, the current fiscal year is a really strong financial year. The board approved the establishment of the rate stabilization fund. I think was that last board meeting, I get confused. And so we are recommending using $15 million of that rate stabilization fund in the 2025 year budget, which would allow us to offer our customers a 5% net discount to PG&E. We think we can afford it, and we think it's the right thing to do for our customers. So not the last page, next page here, this is just bringing it all together. All these numbers, at least under the budget column, are numbers that I just walked through, but you can see it sort of on a typical income statement display. About 475 million or so of revenues in 2025. That includes the 15 million of rate stabilization fund. Cost of energy of $423 million, big number. The operating expense, that includes programs, compensation, and all those other operating expenses on that page of about $57 million. And then the non-operating income, that is just interest income. We have a significant cash balance, interest rates are high, and so we are forecasting about 9 million of interest income. You add that all together, or I guess subtract it, and you end up with a small positive change in net position of about $5 million. The more important number that we track than change in net position, at least I think, is cash. Cash is regal. So on this page, we've listed our ending cash position, both for 2024 as well as the budget year 2025. And the metric that we use, which is days cash on hand, which I know you're all familiar with. You can see we're forecasted to end this current year with about $382 million of cash. So a very strong liquidity position, and that represents 384 days cash on hand. Assuming the 2025 budget and all the numbers that I just laid out, the change in net position, as well as the capital outlays that I mentioned, remember the GovPB program, we are seeing a reduction in cash over the next year of about $40 million. But that still puts us in a really strong cash position, 342 million, and importantly, 260 days cash on hand. That's slightly in excess of our target range of 180 to 250 days, but an appropriate cushion given where we think the next few fiscal years are going to be. Final page in here is just a 5-year forecast. Even though we're only asking you to approve the 1-year budget, we obviously wanted to show you what the full 5-year forecast looks like. I will caveat that anytime you start forecasting out more than 1 year, things get a little uncertain, so I wouldn't put too much weight in these numbers, but they are our best estimate at this point. A lot of numbers on this page. Again, none of them will be right, I can promise that. But the most important number I've focus your eyes on is the bottom row. I should have probably only boxed that, and that's the days cash on hand. And you can see the forecasted position over the next 5 years, and importantly, we're expecting that number to be within our target range of 180 to 250 days in each of those 4 years. So that is my presentation. Again, we are recommending approval of the 2024-25 budget. And with that, take any additional questions.
Oh,
Texted you, sorry.
oh, you texted, okay, sorry. Get my phone out. Thank you, sorry, apologies for being late. Sean and I got jammed in a meeting earlier today, which cascaded the whole day. Does anyone have questions regarding the, okay, got it. Thank you, Brianna. Does anyone have questions regarding the budget, that they want to ask right now, or then we can open to the public and then we can ask, for comments? Yes,
I
Holly.
just have one, the forecast for 2029 shows a pretty substantial increase in the cost of energy. Could you just give us an idea of what that assumption is based on?
2029. Increase over 2028, it's a decrease from 2026. These budgets are largely based on a forecasted curve for what we think the price of all the products will be, and then forecasted load. So I'm sure it's based just on the forecasted.
I'm kind of asking, is it dollar cost or is it increase demand?
It's
That's
mostly-
what I'm trying to get clarification.
It's mostly dollar cost.
Okay.
I'm not expecting a significant increase in load in each of these years.
Okay.
It's like 2% or something.
Yes,
Thank you.
Adam,
Thank you.
please, Dr. Lorraine.
I have just I think a couple of sort of remedial potential questions here. One, I think, can I just get you to help me understand and confirm? I get the sense that if the board adopts the budget today, that we're essentially keeping rates outside of maybe some other items today related to Eco 100, largely the same. No increase through, going in.
The same, sorry, just to clarify.
Yeah.
The same relative to PG&E. They actually just came out today. PG&E's rates are going down by 13% on July 1st in 2 days.
Mhm.
And so our rates are expected to go down as well. So, but we are expecting to keep that discount at 5%, which it was over the prior 12 months.
Okay, that's helpful because I think I had this idea that at the beginning of the year, for example, when we understood that rates were increasing on PG&E's end, we decided to hold our rates and effectively had a discount of something like 13 to 15% in many cases.
Right.
And so I got the impression that, by targeting 5% discount going forward, that was going to be as a result of some of PG&E's rates going down. And so, but us maybe holding steady. And what I'm hearing is, no, we are also reducing rates.
Our weighted average rates, there's many different classes, are gonna go down by about 4%.
Okay. And you just mentioned, it sounds like PG&E's rates are now public information or available to Peninsula Clean Energy. So there's not necessarily a chance of this forecast being, largely off based on a future decision by PG&E because it's already happened.
We assumed in our forecast 11%, and they just came out today at 12%. So
Is it 12 or 13?
It's 2 cents.
Mhm.
So it's a 2-cent system average and the forecasts were at like just under 2 cents and it actually came out just over 2 cents. So it's like within in the third or fourth decimal point differential from what the forecasts were to now. But when you start talking about that on a cents basis, you get to like 1%, 2% pretty quickly, right? So that it's a 2 cent system-wide decrease that's happening on the generation side. And it's just over 2 cents where the forecasts had it at just under 2 cents. Yeah.
We're gonna further discuss rates.
Yeah, in the next item.
Thank you, those are my questions.
So, one issue, a hidden issue that you highlighted in this budget that we should focus on, if I'm right, is the contingency, because the total out of control issue for us, and it's always been, is what the cost of energy is. We have no control over it, and PG&E, I don't know how much control they have over it, but they have a huge impact on us. And so we implemented this contingency, which is a pretty significant contingency. And this assumes we're using the contingency. So I think it was a $23 million contingency.
It's about, it's a 30 million in 2025 and then, yeah.
Okay, so there's $30 million of contingency that's assuming that our estimate of the actual cost of power is greater than what we estimated, and we're covering that with the contingency, which I think is the right decision. But we should just know that this budget assumes we're using all of that.
Yes, Director McHugh?
Yeah, can you go back to the key assumptions slide?
There was are you talking about the one that was sent ahead of time?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not it. We sent a different version. I sent a summary version ahead of time, because I wanted to give people a preview. And then I flew it out a little bit, so I don't have that.
I haven't had time to crunch the numbers, but there's some things there that intuitively don't really seem to add up to me.
Okay.
Total increase of $96 million, which is 29%. Okay. Assumes significantly higher prices for RECs, plus 69%, GHG free plus 452%, and RA plus 46%. I think you did have one slide.
Yeah, a slide that
Sorry,
showed that,
no.
like one of the
Under
first
cost
slides.
of energy, the very first one.
Okay, I mean, I know what some of those, what's included in some of those buckets, but first of all, just kind of for general information, can you kind of recap what's in each one of those buckets?
Sorry.
And then the third bullet says higher load plus 5% and energy prices plus 9%. That just, intuitively, those numbers don't really seem to reconcile to me, but.
Sorry, I apologize. I was getting to this page. So the question is,
Well, okay, first of all, what is in the three buckets? RECs, GHG free, and RA.
RECs is the cost of the renewable energy credit, the attribute we purchase. So that's just a side product we buy to compliance, largely compliance reasons.
Okay.
GHG free is the same type of product, but it's not as green, you could argue. So it includes large hydro. Is that correct? And so it costs, so RECs cost about $80 each, and GHG costs about $40 each, right?
Let's see.
If we,
Yeah.
anyway, I know I'm talking about price.
Yeah, and I'm just using, but anyway, so those are extra attributes. The energy is the actual cost of the quote unquote brown power, but we don't buy brown power, but the actual kilowatts that we buy, that's the cost of power.
What's RA?
That's capacity, resource adequacy. So these are compliance products that all load serving entities, I believe, are required to procure to make sure there's enough power on the grid to meet peak demand.
So it's the cost of energy plus the cost of, I would argue, the cost of compliance
Yeah.
is really both. That's driving up the cost.
But it's not just compliance, right? I mean, we're buying RECs to
To fill our.
achieve 100% clean.
That's correct.
As the CPUC defines it. So the
Yes.
we're actually buying some system power. And because there's no other power available when you get into the very early hours of the morning and certain months of the winter, there's very limited non-system power available. So I think we're buying some natural gas power and we're cleaning it with RECs.
Yeah, we're trying to avoid doing that, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's because the evening peak hours are now primarily still served by fossil fuel. Hopefully that transition will happen sooner than later, so we don't have that problem, but yes, for the time being, some of that is happening. So the table to the left bottom corner showing price of these products have increased that much from 2024 to 2020, the current year to next year. So that's impacting the budget as we continue to procure these attributes to not only meet compliance, but also to fulfill our part content for Eco Plus. So we use greenhouse gas free products to meet Eco Plus. That's 50% greenhouse gas free and 50% renewable. And for Eco 100, that's 100% renewable. That's so the reg price will impact that product content. So all of that are taken into account in the cost of energy, but they're really not physical energy related.
They're swaps.
They're artificially created qualities of the energy. Yeah.
Attributes.
Attribute, yes, attribute.
Okay.
Yes, Kaya.
This is-
Director Aiken.
Probably a very simplistic question but just going back to basic like microeconomics in college, supply and demand. So is it a good thing that this greenhouse gas free thing went up 425%? That means everyone really wants green stuff. No one wants oil. So does that mean that's good? I mean, maybe not for us, but just beyond us?
I guess you can look at two ways. One way is the way you're looking at it is there's quite a bit of demand, meaning a lot of LICs like us are looking for clean products, but
So
on the
won't
flip
that-
side.
Won't that create more of it because the demand?
Yeah, yes, so the problem now is that supply is not enough to meet that growing demand. The supply is not being built fast enough, or it's not available in the market right now, that's creating this jump in price. So in time, we hope there will be enough new capacity on the grid that will help to balance the supply and demand, and eventually the price will calm down.
And does our forecasting model of 5 years assume that there'll be more green stuff to buy, or?
Yes, in the near term, maybe the next 2-3 years, we still expect the price to be very high. As you can see in the 5-year forecast, I think 2026, fiscal year ending 2026 is probably the highest cost of energy year.
Yeah.
And the other side of this is we have contracted quite a few resources. As these long-term resources in our portfolio start to come online, they come with fixed prices. And meaning they're not subject to market volatility if we fix them for 15 years, 20 years. So once these projects come online, that will help to reduce cost. But in the immediate term, the market is such that these products are still very expensive because of the exact supply and demand issue that you're referencing.
Yeah, so, comment. Certainly in neoclassical economics, which assumes perfect markets, you get to that equilibrium. We're not gonna get to that equilibrium because we don't have a perfect market.
Yeah.
So let's just, I think it takes much longer to get there with market signals. This is a regulated market, thank heavens, actually, because I think if it weren't regulated, indeed, it would be potentially chaotic. So I wish our simplistic microeconomic models would work, but they really don't. Right, so yes, sometime in the future we might come to equilibrium, but again, because the corrections of the market, we're not gonna get there. A question about capacity on the right hand side of the slide. Capacity is basically RA. Is that what that is?
That is correct.
Right. So is there any reason why you didn't do capacity kind of parens RA so that people would understand that it's not like a new?
Oh, sure, you can, but it literally means RA in this case.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And RA essentially is like our insurance, right? We're buying the ability to pull other power that's being imposed upon us by the state, right? Because we want to make sure we have enough power in those peak periods, right? And that's what essentially RA is. And you know what might be helpful in the future? I don't know. We need Dr. Pradeep again. But maybe if there's just this quick glossary that people have, like, this is RA, right? That would help, because for a lot of us who are new and whatever, I think it's really. Sure.
I think that is in the packet, but specific to each thing,
At the
that
end
would be
of
good
the
too.
reports, there is a glossary.
And then my last comment is, as a great finance person, and I'm glad you were here looking at the bottom line. And I appreciate your pointing out the programs have increased, that the revenue and capital expense side have increased. But those particular things make PCE unique to what it is, right? And yes, it is pricey, or it can be expensive, and yes, it's increasing, but it's a huge differentiation from us in the IOUs, right? The investor-owned utilities. And I think we have to be able to balance. It's a triple bottom line, right? Certainly make sure we're in the black, right? But also make sure that the public feels that there is some benefit to having this local entity that actually plows money back into the community. So I want you to keep telling us this is increasing, it's large, but we need to also understand that there's huge value to us, both on the environmental side as well as on the marketing side, that these programs make us who we are. In addition to just giving the 5% discount, it really sets us aside. So I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying to all of us around the table, right? Super valuable to have these programs there and to be able to point to them and say, see, we really do care and we are making a difference on decarbonizing.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, can we go to the 5-year projection again? And I know this is a projection and none of the numbers will be right. But I think my question's for Sean, and it's just sort of a management philosophy question. So, this kind of tells me with the red boxes, we're managing to the days of cash on hand. But what I'm observing is our revenues are sort of kind of linearly going up as you'd expect them to, but our operating expenses seem to be at a much greater slope. So I think 50% or so over this 5-year period. And most organizations where kind of the operational expenses are growing faster than revenue. It's sort of you got to ask some questions about that. We sell such a big, valuable product, that always is gonna leave us a lot of operating room. But how are we thinking about that? Now, if the answer is we're geometrically scaling our rebates and the ways we can incentivize our community to electrify, I'm all for that. But if we're thinking our operational expense should always gobble up whatever is coming off our energy profit, we would want to understand that a little bit better, I think.
So I can respond and then I would
Yeah.
invite you to respond.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about that internally, and the overarching truth of it is that the cost of energy is the big 9,000-pound gorilla in the room. It's 90% plus of the overall budget. That said, we have regular conversations internally about cost containment, which is going to be even more important sort of going into this fiscal year and the next fiscal year when we know prices for energy are going to be high. So what that means is that the hiring, we've been in a tremendous growth phase here over the last couple of years. That's going to significantly slow down. We've made some big investments this year in software and other, sort of bigger ticket items because we've had a good year. Those things are going to, slow down. So it's sort of a more intelligent growth strategy. I don't think you're going to see. So we'll see what happens here in 5 years, but that's the best that I can do for you. But at the end of the day, the cost of energy is still just the biggest driver in all of our expenses. Does that answer your question?
I mean, it does, and I just, that is always such a big number that, gross profit, if you will, might always be a big number. So if we're managing to this days on hand, I would argue that's probably too much to assume we're just gonna hand over to operational expense.
Oh, correct.
And.
Completely
and,
agree.
You know, and I just, that's the conversation. That was really my question.
So thank you for asking the question. We definitely track, even though they're not as large as the cost of energy, we can control them more. So what you control, you tend to focus more on, and that's the operating expenses. I didn't go into this is in the appendix, the details behind the operating expenses. You can see up there what's in most of those numbers. We're not expecting a huge increase in things like compensation, there's salary growth. We want to make sure we can offer a competitive salary. We've got 1 or 2 new headcount a year, so not significant. The main driver, you can see it's sort of a law of large numbers, is programs. And that's what's driving the increase. It's discretionary, so we can turn that on and off, but that's what our hope is, to be able to spend that money on programs. If we don't have the costs, but we don't have the extra funds.
And that was the answer I was hoping for, is we're using that extra money on rebates and incentivizing our community.
And I think, to combine these two comments, Director Romero and Director Dugan, we don't have shareholders. We have ratepayers, we don't have shareholders. We're like a mutual company, right? Our ratepayers are who we're responsible to. So unlike an IOU has to then, figure out how they're gonna repay their shareholders and pay a dividend and et cetera, we don't have that overlay. It goes back to Director Romero's point, it's a big distinguishing factor. So rather than giving that money out in increased dividends and shareholders, we're reinvesting it back into our communities and giving it to our ratepayers. So that number, just like a dividend or a shareholder agreement, we can control that. If we're really stressed under a negative year and we've not been able to roll over past proceeds and we're going to dip below 180 days cash on hand, we can then say, we're gonna postpone a few of the programs, we're gonna reduce those back for a year or 2 and build that reserve back up until we're ready to do it. I think one of the things we've all had to be very careful of is building too big of a reserve, balancing that need of reinvesting our community versus, residents looking at us and saying, my bill is so high and you have $100 million sitting in your bank account. That's not a good look. So it's a very fine walk that I think this board has done a really good job of balancing. And with Nick on board, it's really just been so much more transparent and able to see what we're doing. Yes, Director Bragstone.
I just want to thank you for the doing the salary survey and really paying attention to the employees, including the DEAI stuff. But paying people what they should be paid, it's hard, right? This isn't the kind of job where there's just somebody, your next door neighbor does the same thing, right? It is complicated how much to pay people for these very specific jobs. And I just really appreciate paying attention to that, making sure the prices we're paying people as we should, giving them the increases along with the COLA. And we do save money when you retain people, so, and it's important.
Yes, Director DeGolia.
Yeah, so the rate of growth change is what you're pointing out, John, and that's very significant. The biggest driver there is that we launched the programs and it took a while for those programs to come into full operation, and a big piece of which is hiring the employees, and the rate of employee change has been very significant. Those programs are pretty much operational now, so it's taken a couple years for them to get there. And I think it's extremely important as we go through it to measure the benefit from each of those programs, because these programs are really good ideas. Some of them are cutting edge ideas, and some of them are going to really work well, and some of them aren't going to work that well. And so we need to measure them. And I think, like Nick said, that's something we can control. So, but the rate of growth is really because the programs have come into their own.
If it's everyone's okay, I'd like to just take a moment for public comment. Do any members of the public have a comment on the budget?
We don't have any public comment.
Great, anyone behind me? Okay.
All right, we're gonna close public comment. Does anyone have any concluding remarks or would anyone like to make a motion?
I move we approve the budget.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Director Golia and a second by Director Dugan, I think, and I'll get you next, Anders. Can I have a roll call vote? Do we need a roll call vote on this?
I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
Okay, please, roll call vote, please. Yeah.
San Mateo County. San Mateo County. Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont,
Yeah.
Christie,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Homa,
Yes.
Daly City. East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yeah.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Baños,
Yes.
Menlo Parks,
Yes.
Millbrae,
No one.
Pacifica, Portola Valley,
Yes.
Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yeah.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, Woodside. Motion passes.
All right, fantastic.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Yeah, Nick, excellent
Good
job. I'm just gonna pop back to the report out chaired by the chair. So we have done we're putting together two things. The first is a board strategic plan ad hoc committee to work with Shalini on this. We've hired a new consultant, La Pina, right? La Piana, who's going to help us with, we had a great baseline on our strategic plan. This is going to be like iteration number 2, a little more dynamic and a little more responsive to where we've come in as an organization in the last 5 years. I have asked, so the committee members right now are Donna, Marty, Rick, Marty Medina, vice chair, vice chair, Rick Tagolia, past chair, and I have asked Director Lorraine and Director Ragsdale to assist us on this as well, and they have both agreed. So that we're going to keep it a small little bit of a committee. This work will then come to the executive committee in a more robust format, and then after approval there will come to the full board. So everybody will be involved, but we just need to start with sort of a small agile group to get going. The second report out is that we do need to put together a CAC recruitment ad hoc committee. This is to recruit one member to join us in our Los Banos office. It will be a pretty short process. We usually get just a few people for that. And I'm wondering, is Paul on? Did we have Paul with us?
No, his alternate, Josh Panero, so.
Okay, oh, Josh is on, fantastic, the city manager, Panero.
Right.
So I'd like to ask if there are any members of our board of directors that might want to volunteer for this assignment. And before I do that, I do think we should owe an honor to, since it is a Los Banos recruitment, that if either Mayor Yanes or city manager would like to join, if you would let us know, we would be delighted to have you on. Is there anyone else who might want to sit on this committee? It's like on Zoom, so you don't have to meet in person. It's just the CAC recruitment for one member in Los Banos. So I think it will be a one meeting, 30 minutes on Zoom to interview one or maybe 2 people that apply for the position. Yes, Tiger, I appreciate it. Director Big Stick would like to join. I'd be happy to have him on there. I'm happy to join. Marty, there's 3 of us. That's fine. That's pretty much all we need. Unless anybody decides to have second, remorse about missing on this committee, and then we'll put our friends from Los Banos. That'll give us 4. I think that's sufficient. Okay. Perfect. And I believe that is all I have. For now. So we'll move on to item 12. Oh, excuse me, item 11. Approval and updates of rates. This is Leslie, Director of Child Services. Jump on in, Leslie. This is approval of updates to Peninsula Clean Energy's rate tables and rates to be effective as of August 1st. This is an action item.
So starting with, what we're asking for here tonight is approval of a resolution to, make some updates in response to the, rate changes that just happened. We'll go into that a little bit more. In addition to, just making that rate change, we're requesting to move to one rate schedule for all customers. We're currently meeting 2 rate schedules. We'll go into a little bit of the details on that. But these rates would be effective, August 1st. So in 1 month, if we pass this tonight. So a little bit of background, as you all recall, talked about this just a little bit before here, PG&E is just implementing a rate change effective July 1. This is in response to a roll off of a surcharge. There was an under collection that was happening from 2023. It was a known, we knew that this roll off was going to happen July 1. It was a known dollar amount that we had forecasts and what the impact was going to be, but we just had the rate sheets drop this afternoon. So now we know what the actual numbers are, but it's a 2 cent differential that's rolling off system wide from the generation rates. That's going to put PG&E's rates back close to where they were in 2023. When we do this recalibration on our rates, they will change a bit. Some of them are going to go down, some of them may adjust up a little bit, just depending on where they're at and how PG&E's actually implemented that rate change across the board. But overall, our rates are going to drop a little bit, but not a lot, because we were sitting below PG&E right now over the last 6 months by about 10-15% on average. And so this drop from PG&E that's 11-12% or 2 cents is less of an impact to us when we're making this recalibration. That makes sense. And currently, yeah.
So they're reducing generation rates. Are they also reducing distribution rates?
Yeah, so Justin Kudo looked at that a little bit in the couple hours he had this afternoon. He said that they are actually reducing distribution rates a little bit as well, about 1 cent. So there will be an impact on the distribution side as well, small. Yeah.
The 1 cent is less than 1%.
Yes, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know if it's less than 1%, but it's fairly small. Yeah, and it's a system average 1 cent. So that's spread across the rate schedules. Yeah.
And just for those that don't understand, how many rates do we have?
There's about 50 actual different rates,
So
but then there's
50 rates.
But there's like
remember, this is
140 different billing
commercial,
determinants.
residential,
Yeah.
agricultural, industrial.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of rates.
Yeah, but then there's the seasonality, like in the peak off-peak hours. So there's about 150 different billing determinants across those rates. Yeah. So, and right now we're currently maintaining 2 rate schedules. One that we had set based off the 2016 vintage, which is the primary vintage in San Mateo County, and one that we had set off the 2022 vintage, which is the territory vintage for Los Banos. We did this last year. We're looking to consolidate those into one rate schedule based off the 2016 vintage, which will allow for everyone to have at least a 5% discount on their rates. So a little bit more on that 1 versus 2 rate schedule. So again, most of our customers are assigned to that vintage 2016 rate, because that is what was rolled out system-wide here in San Mateo County. Most of our Los Banos customers are actually assigned vintage 2021, because that's when we started the enrollment in Los Banos, but because we had a rolling enrollment over that crossed the vintage year. We do have a handful of folks that are at 2022 vintage, and that is the territory vintage that was set for Los Banos. So new accounts that come into service Los Banos will be assigned 2022 vintage. And then we do have a mix of vintages across, San Mateo County for various reasons, because, when people opt out, they opt back in, other things that happen. So we do actually have people across a variety of vintages, but everyone is, most everyone is in 2016 in San Mateo County. And then we talked a little bit about this, the two rate schedules and why we did that. Initially, when we rolled out service in Los Banos was because of where PCIA was sitting at that time. If we had enrolled Los Banos and just folded them all into the 2016 rate, we actually would not have been offering a discount to those customers, because at that time, the PCIA for vintage 2016 was actually lower than 2022. And so when you did the math on that, if we had charged 2016 set rates to people that were getting surcharges at the 2022, 2021 or 2022 level, they would not have had a discount at that time. And so that's why we started with two rates. We're now in a scenario where we can offer one rate schedule across the service territory right now, and give everyone at least a 5% discount. Now we may, make some different decisions going forward. Some other things might happen. That PCIA surcharge is volatile. There is some different things happening in the future. So we may make some different decisions down the line, but right now, this is a way we can simplify our rate offerings, just have one rate that applies across the board and still provide a value to all customers. And just a quick snapshot here of the current sort of different PCIA and franchise fee surcharges. As you can see, it's about a 1 cent differential between 2016 and 2022, which is what we have our two rates set across right now. So there would be a little bit of more of an advantage to customers that have the 2022, 2021 and 2022 rates. They would get a little bit more of a discount when you net it all out, because they're otherwise getting a lower PCIA franchise fee charged to them. So just a couple of things to consider here, to be transparent about what we're talking about when we're looking to move from two rate schedules to one. It would, when we looked at this in the initial analysis, if we maintained two rate schedules, we could effectively collect a little bit more revenue from the customers that are in those later vintages. We would be charging more for our rate. And we would have to publish, rate schedules that were showing a small subset of customers were getting charged more by PCE, but it would net out with a lower PCIA and franchise fee from PG&E. Thought it would be a lot simpler to just move forward with one rate schedule. There's confusion now when customers go to our website and they can see two different rate schedules. So I'm not really sure which one is theirs. We have to have little explainers about that. It'd be just a lot cleaner if we could have one. There also creates a little bit of operational complexity for Calpine when new customers are coming into service. PG&E is sometimes a little bit delayed on sending through the vintage assignment for new accounts. And so they have to make some assumptions about what the vintage is based on some different characteristics. And sometimes it's not correct and we have to go back and change it. So it's just much easier if we have one rate schedule that's applying to everyone. And then as just a small benefit, for folks that have different vintages from 2016, they would get a little bit higher discount.
And that includes all Los Banos customers, does it not?
Yes, yeah. So again, the proposal here is to recalibrate the PCE rates following the publication of the PG&E's rate schedule, which just dropped earlier today. Move to one rate schedule that applies across the board to all customers. That discount, as Nick mentioned before, at 5%, we estimate is going to require us to realize about $15 million from the rate stabilization fund to meet that goal this next year. And these new PCE rates would be effective August 1st if we pass this resolution tonight. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Any question? If there are no questions, are you concluded, Leslie?
Yep.
All right, then if we have no questions, I'll ask if any members of the public would like to comment or have questions. No comment. Okay. With that, if everyone is all right, I think this is really good work, Leslie.
It seems to be easy and easier for our staff and easier for Calpine. Also mainly, most importantly, for our customers who will look and then see a single rate. And that will be much better. So if someone would like to make a motion. Right, give it to Director Lorraine, who took a second, or Director Romero. May we please have a roll call vote, please?
San Mateo County. San Mateo County. Atherton.
Yeah.
Belmont.
Aye.
Brisbane. Yes. Burlingame.
Yes.
Colma.
Yes.
Bailey City. East Palo Alto.
Yes.
Foster City.
Yes.
Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Hillsborough. Yes. Los Baños.
Yes.
Menlo Park.
Yes.
Millbrae.
Aye.
Pacifica.
Aye.
Portola Valley.
Yes.
Redwood City.
Yes.
San Bruno.
Yes.
San Carlos.
Yes.
San Mateo.
Yes.
South San Francisco. Woodside. Motion passes.
All right, thank you all very much. Item number 12 is back to Leslie again.
I'm here again.
Authorization to adjust price premium for Eco 100 products effective January 1, 2025.
So we did bring this, so what we're asking for is a authorization here to adjust the Eco 100 pricing, which is the voluntary 100% renewable product. That pricing, we're suggesting we increase that to 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour effective January 1, 2025. So a little bit delay in the implementation of that. We're gonna go over that, why we're recommending that strategy. So as you may know, Eco 100 has been our greening certified product that's had a 1 cent premium since we started service. That Eco 100 product, we started an analysis of that a little bit earlier this year for a couple of reasons. One, when we were initially projecting to transition, to a 100%, Eco Plus product, renewable product. And about a year ago, we were starting to have these conversations about what was Eco 100 going to look like. So that's where that initially started. That conversation evolved as we were doing some of the analysis on Eco 100. When we were doing a price sort of analysis of it, we were doing a deep dive with some of our customers or customers that are our primary buyers of Eco 100. What characteristics did they want to see in a premium product? And then, what we were going to do with Eco 100 and this information that we got when we realized we were still going to need to offer this premium product going forward because we made some strategy changes about how we're progressing to that 100% renewable goal. One of the other issues that had come up earlier this year was a potential issue with the greening certification. Some fundamental changes were looking to happen in the greening program that we're going to make it very cost prohibitive for us to maintain that certification. Those have since resolved, which is great. But all of this work that we did led to us to bring forth this proposal to make some changes to the program going forward. We do think it's an important program to keep in as a voluntary offer for our customers, for people that need this or desire this particular offering. But because of what we've learned and investigated about, we do think there should be some changes. So just to give a little bit of background here, part of our work was looking at the true cost of Eco 100. These are just sort of estimates that we were looking at historically and projections going forward. But that 1 cent premium really was covering, for the most part, our projected costs of that program historically up until this current year, where it was not covering that cost anymore, and it's not projected to quite cover that cost over the next couple of years, which is why we're looking to increase that price premium to 1.5 cents to more align with what we project that cost is going to be. There are some specific types of resources that we need to include in the power content for this product to meet greening certifications. And so we're limited on our options for the types of product that we can procure and set aside for this, which is why it's a little bit less flexible price-wise on our end to make those purchases or procurements, and a little bit more prescribed on how we need to assign it. So who's actually the customers that are buying Eco 100? It's very heavily, well, this is an offering that currently anyone could subscribe to. And we do have an automatic enrollment in Eco 100 for Portola Valley customers. The vast majority of our Eco 100 sales are going to very large commercial and large municipal customer accounts. In fact, 85% of our Eco 100 sales are being consumed by about 20 PCE accounts or customers. And those folks are making that purchase for some very strategic reasons. And they do want all these characteristics of it being Green E certified, being 100% renewable, carbon free. And so we need to keep those characteristics in the program or in that product available. But to meet that cost to deliver for those folks is why we're proposing to increase the premium from 1 cent to 1.5 cents for at least the next 1 to 2 years. We will evaluate this on an annual basis, and we can bring the price back down, we will. But to align with their true cost to serve, that's why we're projecting for the 1.5 cents, at least for this next year. And total Eco 100 customers, just for reference, is about 6,500 total customers. So it's only, less than 2% of our customers are actually subscribed to this program. But the folks that are subscribed to this program, are a concentrated group that have a specific interest that we're trying to meet. And so again, what we're proposing here is an Eco 100 premium to 1.5 cents effective January 1, 2025. Now, why January 1, 2025? There are some specific noticing requirements with Green E. If you're going to adjust the premium product price to customers, and so we do need to allow some proper time for that. Also, because this is a decent increase to folks, we would like to give folks a time to incorporate that into their budget cycles if they'd like to for the next calendar year. Most of our customers are budgeting on a calendar year. They're subscribed to that program. And also give us a little bit of flexibility to work with our county, our city and county municipal accounts, sometime for work with the Portola Valley folks in particular who are automatically subscribed to that program, and really give folks a lot of opportunity to either understand what their options are to opt down or make accommodation for staying in the program and budget to stay enrolled. The calendar year also fits well with the Green E reporting requirements, which are on a calendar year, and so not switching the pricing or dramatically increasing or decreasing our enrollment during the calendar year is important or helpful for our Green E reporting requirements as well. Any questions? Yes.
I'm surprised to see how few residential customers are enrolled in Eco 100. I think you should reach out and get some more people. I'm sure more than the small number you're talking about would subscribe if they were aware of that this exists.
Yeah, that's it's an interesting point. We can talk about that maybe a little bit more offline, but we haven't ever done a real concentrated advertisement or promotion of Eco 100 to the residential customers. We've always made it there as sort of an option for people if they would like to subscribe to the program, but we haven't really ever actively marketed it to folks to pay more. They've been very happy with our regular product that's very clean and affordable. But if we want to make that an effort to advertise it, we can. But we haven't done any concentrated marketing campaigns around it.
You should think about it.
Just a side note to that, Director. We in Burlingame, our Citizens Environmental Council did do an extensive marketing program. We did it for 6 to 7 months. We had it in businesses. You got a sticker if you join. You got all these great things. And I think after a year of 20 volunteers talking to people and working, we converted maybe 20 or 30 households. So people just don't want to pay the premium for the greener is what we found. They maybe today they would, but I think the bills were people were already my bill's already so high, I'm not going to pay more. So that was.
The other thing is Eco 100 is 100% fossil free. So this is renewable, so it doesn't
100%
include the
renewable.
large hydro.
Yeah.
So if you really don't want the large hydro and you want only
Wind and solar.
really the RECs from solar or wind, because solar and wind isn't available at certain times, then you'd go for the Eco 100. And
That's what drives the price.
that we did the same thing. That's why we had a hard time signing people up, because the quality of the power wasn't really that different.
Right.
I think, we had a question here first.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
yes, Betsy, sorry.
What is the difference for a typical residential customer? Like, what would that?
The cost differential yeah, so for a regular household is normally consuming about 500 kilowatt hours a month, a little bit less than that. So for Eco 100, it's like, $5 a month right now. With the 50, another half cent premium, that might be like $7.50 a month. So it is a little bit of an increase, but it's not, it's fairly nominal for most households. But most households aren't the people who are actually subscribed to the program. It's our large commercial industrial customers and municipal accounts. We do actually have an estimate for the municipal agencies that we can, that Justin will be doing some specific outreach. Justin Pine will be doing specific outreach to all of those communities to make sure that what the projected increase in budget would be for this increase for the municipalities. We can share that with you as well, potentially, that if you want to be part of that conversation. Yeah.
But it maybe I'm not exactly understanding, but my perspective is that you're recommending the increase because the cost
Yes.
is greater.
Yeah.
And if I saw that one slide you had that showed what the costs were, the increase, at least in this year, doesn't even cover the cost. So the Eco Plus customers are subsidizing the Eco 100 customers for a little bit.
Essentially, we're not doing a true cost allocation, in our rate making. So, but yeah, there's a little bit of an under collection that we're happening right now with Eco 100 customers. And again, those projections for like this year, next year, like they're estimates, they're not fixed numbers. But we feel confident about the 1.5 being a good place to land for the next year or two at least. And then we can revisit it if costs change, significantly one way or the other.
So residential customers, I'm hearing, are just super reluctant to pay more. So my question is, why are large commercial and industrial customers so willing to do so?
Because they have mandates to do so.
Yeah.
They've got corporate, sustainability requirements. They've got other targets that they're trying to meet for other directives that they're doing, and our municipalities are using it quite often for like their climate action plan goals to hit zero carbon, emissions. So yeah, but for the large commercial customers, they've got their own internal sustainability directives.
That's great.
Yeah.
Director Al?
Remind me, PG&E's rates are gonna drop 2 cents to simplify, just 2 cents kind of across the board on July 1st, right?
Yeah.
And our rates are gonna change how much in response to that?
I don't know, actually. Yeah, we're doing those calculations right now.
Ballpark?
I don't have the exact ballpark, but I would say it's
Down about 4%.
yeah, but I know you want a number, you wanna, yeah.
My point is, this half-cent change could get lost in the noise of rate changes between now and January 1st. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, for the customers that are buying the most of this energy,
Yeah.
they're gonna price this in because they've got directives to buy this, and this is actually the cheapest, easiest way for them to meet those directives, right? The folks or the customers that may make a different decision or may have some more budget constraints might be our municipal accounts, right? And so they're gonna need to make individual decisions based on that, but the people that are by far that are buying the most of this, that are buying over 50% of our sales right now, they're just gonna price this in because it's not gonna be that big of a deal.
But I guess I think for a lot of customers, just this half-cent increase is going to, I mean, maybe not completely absorbed, but it's gonna be comparable to the other increases that we're gonna be changing
Yeah.
rates between now and then, but on the same scale, I think. Is that fair?
Yeah, I don't think it's not gonna make or break someone's budget, like, most
Yeah.
people's utility bills right now are like $150, $200,
Yeah.
right? And we're talking about like a $2 differential in Eco 100 charges.
And
Go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say really briefly, we also agreed that we would reach out to a segment of our customers who'll be working with Portola Valley. You know, the big thing here is it's not worth opt-outs to charge 1.5 cents, but we don't anticipate any opt-outs. And so we will be reaching out. If it looks like we're gonna have that, we'll come back to you.
And I was gonna say to this question of trying to drive more people into Eco 100, the biggest thing is simply inertia. I mean, it's not that it's not even they don't want to pay more, it's that most people just can't be bothered to look at their bills and make that decision.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad because a lot of people would actually do it, but it's hard to get anybody.
Yeah, which is why Portola Valley has a 93% participation rate in Eco 100 and everyone else is around.
They don't opt out or down.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think it's inertia as much as ignorance. I don't think people know that it exists. My impression.
Yes.
Yeah,
Director-
maybe we could just send out a postcard that people can send it back. But I was just gonna say, I think Starbucks has gone from $5 to $7.50, so.
Question, is everybody here, Eco 100? I am. Yeah, so like even our own board isn't all Eco 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it very intentionally.
We have,
Like,
there's some.
Most people are, it's just hard to get people up, but it's another avenue probably to sell one of our great products, so we can do that. I think we need an approval of a resolution. Oh, let me take public comment on this. Is there any member of the public who'd like to comment on the Eco 100 premium? No one here? Okay, is there someone who wants to make a motion? Okay, got
Second.
Second by Director Big Stick, roll call vote, please.
Yeah.
Brisbane? Yes. Irving?
Yes.
Palma?
Yes.
Daly City? East Palo Alto?
Yes.
Foster City?
Yes.
Apple Bay?
Yes.
Hillsborough? Yes. Williams?
Yes.
Menlo Park? Yes. Millbrae? Pacifica?
Aye.
Portola Valley?
Yes.
Redwood City?
Yes.
San Bruno?
Yes.
San Carlos?
Yes.
San Mateo?
Yes.
South San Francisco? Woodside? Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much, Leslie. We're moving on to item 13, which is Roy's, our Director of Power Resources. And it is to approve a resolution delegating authority of the Chief Executive Officer to execute 2 energy storage and service agreements. I'm not going to go into the details. I believe they all came through the county system, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so they all came through the county system, hundreds and hundreds of pages for everyone to read. And I'll turn it over to Roy.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. Roy Shu, Director of Power Resources. I'll be co-presenting this item with my colleague Sarah Mata, Senior Manager of Power Resources. Tonight, we're asking your approval on 2 energy storage and services agreement with Gabriel Project 2 LLC for the Gabriel Storage 1 and 2 projects with a delivery term of 15 years, starting at commercial operation day on about June 1st, 2027, and total amount not to exceed $208 million. So let me start with the background. We started this process, we were first introduced to this project through our 2023 RFP process, where we received 28 respondents. 28 respondents submitted bids to us, 58 projects. And the Gabriel Storage project was shortlisted for its desirable attributes and attractive pricing and overall value to PCE. And after the shortlist, we entered into an exclusivity agreement with the developer, IPA in this case, and we started our journey on the negotiation of the hundreds of pages of document. And it took over a year to negotiate the contract. Staff does not take a $200 million contract lightly. All the terms are carefully and diligently negotiated with the counterparty. And throughout the year, the course of the year, we identified new needs for our compliance. So initially, this project was 1 4-hour system, and we requested the counterparty to consider bifurcating the project to a 4-hour system and an 8-hour system to help us with compliance. And the counterparty was flexible enough to accommodate the request, which makes this project more appealing because we're sort of killing meeting multiple objectives under one round of negotiation. So once the Gabriel storage 1 and 2 projects are executed, if approved, there will be the 5th and 6th standalone storage resources to be added to our portfolio. And just to emphasize here, storage resources are very important to our portfolio because they are able to store our excess solar generation and to be dispatched during evening peaks when the energy and power is needed most. And as a side note, the first 4 standalone storage projects, 2 of which will be coming online this year. In fact, the 1 will be coming online next month. So more about the project. The project owner or the special purpose entity who are we contracting with is Gabriel Project 2 LLC, and the developer is IPA Power Development. And we'll have more detail on developer on the later slide. The project is located in Urbandale, California. The technology is lithium ion, and the capacity is 65 megawatts for the 4-hour piece and 10 megawatt for the 8-hour component of the project. The term is 15 years. The estimated delivery starting date is June 1st, 2027. And the project is located in the DAC area. It's a 16-acre site that was previously a landfill. So the project is developing on a brownfield, and remediation work is ongoing. Under a standard energy storage service agreement structure, we pay a fixed price per kilowatt month with no escalation throughout the 15-year term. And the 8-hour and 4-hour contracts are almost identical, other than the numbers are different. Everything else, the key terms are the same. Peninsula Clean Energy will be the scheduling coordinator for this resource, meaning that we will be operating the storage project however we want, when to charge, we decide when to charge, when to discharge, and following market signals. And the products we're getting from this contract are listed on the right. So we're getting the storage, charging and discharging arbitrage. We're getting resource adequacy, that's the capacity value of the project, the ancillary service, that's a market product by the ISO, and also help us to meet midterm reliability compliance, which is very important on the hour piece. A little bit about developer. This project is being developed by IPA Power Development LLC, which is a subsidiary of IPA Power, and that is a Blackstone portfolio company, so they have pretty strong financial backing. IPA develops, owns, and operates standalone battery storage and hybrid projects. And I want to emphasize the operation piece here. Some developers, they develop and they flip. This developer, they operate batteries and they have pipeline projects in operation and in development, and their experience and knowledge in operation has demonstrated throughout the negotiation. Okay, at this point, I'll turn over to Sarah to talk about the other elements of this project.
Thank you, Roy. Good evening. My name is Sarah Mata. I'm the Senior Manager of Power Resources. I'm going to go through some of the qualitative evaluation of this project. So we always do an environmental review of any potential projects we're contracting with. This one is located on an existing landfill in an urban area. So they're redeveloping a brownfield site for a green use. It's not located on any protected lands from a federal, state, or local perspective. And the city of Irwindale has already completed the draft EIR. It's available on their website. There's a link there if you want to review it. There are only minimal impacts of the battery portion, and those are due to construction impacts that will be mitigated. There's complicated permitting of turning this landfill into a commercial and industrial development, but it's well underway and no problems are anticipated. And there is site remediation work happening right now, and IPA is funding that work. So they're remediating parts of the landfill as required under the permits. IPA has agreed to require a project labor agreement for the construction of this project. So that's a big, selling point to us. And then finally, just a summary of some of the other community benefits. There will be 184 new construction jobs created during the development process and 4 new full-time permanent jobs. The property taxes over the lifetime of the contract are expected to be 86 million, and about 18 million of that is attributable to PCE's, Peninsula Clean Energy's portion of the project. And there will also be a development agreement, which is currently in negotiation with the city of Irwindale. And we expect that as part of the development agreement, IPA will have a community benefit payment to the city of Irwindale. Okay, I'm also going to go over the way we expect this project to operate and fit into our portfolio. So for those of you who are new, we share this graph as part of all of our contracts. There are 12 boxes. They each represent 1 month of the year. When you have a solar project or a wind project, they look a little different. A storage project kind of looks the same every month. So the vertical axis is the megawatt hours that the project is either sending to the grid or charging from the grid. And then the horizontal is the hours in a typical day in that month. So you can see, say top left box is January. The project will be charging in the middle of the day. That's when the blue and red lines dip below the middle line. And then they'll be discharging in the evening. That's when they go above the middle line. Basically storing solar energy when the sun is shining and then discharging it in the evening after the sun sets and people still need energy. And the 2 lines, the blue is the larger 65 megawatt portion, the red line is the smaller 10 megawatt, 8-hour long duration portion. And here is the estimated contribution to our portfolio. There's 4 graphs here. They represent the 4 seasons of the year. Again, the vertical axis is the power in our portfolio, and the horizontal axis is the hours in a typical day in each season. So again, the blue boxes are the larger portion, red box is the smaller 8-hour portion. They charge in the middle of the day, they discharge at night. You can see how our portfolio is stacked up. We are very well procured in spring and summer months, and we're even over procured in the solar hours. But in the fall and winter months, we still have more procurement to go to fill out everything we need for our load. And our load, is the line. Our supply resources, the power projects in our portfolio are the stacked bars. Okay, and then finally, midterm reliability requirements. This is a state mandate for us to procure different types of energy products. All the different requirements, we have different numbers, they're all in these boxes. If you want to know more, come talk to me after the meeting, I will tell you all about it. This project is going to fulfill 2 different requirements under the procurement mandate. It's going to provide new generic capacity that comes online in 2027, and it's going to provide long duration storage. That's the 8-hour battery portion that has to be online by 2028, but in our case will be coming on a little early in 2027. So this is very important for our compliance. And here we have the recommendation again.
Right. Does anyone have any questions on the battery, these 2 battery storage projects? I see Director Gabriel.
So there are times where there's problems with development on landfill because of the methane that comes out of the landfill. Do you know if A, that's an issue here, or B, I know your contracts are incredibly complicated. and it took you a year to do this one. And I have a lot of respect for that, as you know. But the question is, are we protecting against that? I just don't know how much of a risk that is and if we're protecting.
Okay, I can start first. Okay, to our knowledge, that's not an issue. There's ongoing remediation work. That's right now. They've shown us a video of bulldozer moving dirt all around the project site. So either that has already been mitigated or it was not an issue. But we have not really gone through the hundreds of pages of the EIR to know. But we could find out if that's of interest for it.
Actually, just still, I'm building a Top Golf on top of a 13-acre landfill in Burlingame, and it's taken us 10 years to get through environmental and compliance work. We negotiated the contract in 2016. So 16, and then there was a little time before. It might not be a bad idea to really delve into that just a little bit and make sure they can deliver on time.
Sure. We can.
The issue is the delivery on time. It can be done. It just sometimes takes longer.
Well, I assume that the developer's got an obligation to deliver power or to take power off the grid and deliver us what we're buying, which is getting the power for those 4-hour and 8-hour time periods. And if they have some kind of a problem because there's some environmental issue at their site, then that's on them, not on us.
That is correct. On the cover page of the contract, what contracts, there's a milestone schedule. And some of the milestones come with liquidated damages. If they don't meet milestones, then they'll have to pay us basically to reimburse us for damages that in case we have to go on pure replacement products. So yes, it's the beauty of these contracts are all the development risks are borne by the developer up to the security amount that we have.
Kim, did you have a question? No. Who did I see? Oh, yes. Director
Is there a risk that in 3 years, battery technology will have evolved in a different way than this lithium ion stuff, and there'll be better ways to get energy storage?
Yes, I know most of our all of our battery energy storage contracts are now lithium ion. In the latest RFP that we just released, we emphasize that we would like to have different technologies. I'm sure in the coming years there will be new technologies that can be commercially viable. Not sure if we'll easily match the viability of the lithium ion, which is now proliferated on the grid. But there will definitely be new technologies available for us to look at in a couple of years.
Good.
Yes, Director.
Yeah, these agreements, have these like 20-year lifespans. I'm just curious, do we ever think about just owning assets like this, fee simple? I mean, hire someone to operate them so that in 20 years, we're not rebuying all this again?
Yeah, so the reason that these are 15, so this one's a 15-year, 20-year, because a developer needs to finance the project. They need to have a guaranteed revenue stream for that long in order to get financing. So we discussed with the board in February about ownership. So there are tax benefits that we can realize now as an organization. On the flip side are the risks of development and additional costs of operation that we have no experience or staff that can currently perform. We can obviously contract that out. But market might be different in 15 years that, we might want to move away from this project and we'll have the ability to do so if we don't own it. If we do own it, then we're kind of stuck with it. So there's a little bit of that in there.
Price of, an option to buy at the end of the term, what that would be priced at. It might be reasonably priced, and that optionality might be very valuable to us in 15 years.
Yeah, we can consider including a purchase option at various points of throughout the term or at the end, and that's not unusual in the procurement world. Yeah, so if that's of interest to the board, we can definitely start adding these provisions into the contract going forward.
I think it's worth understanding the cost.
Yeah,
So we know it'll be expensive in 15 years when we have to duplicate this capacity.
Yes, I think that's really reasonable. And then maybe also adding in the risks, because then you own this thing. If it blows up, if something happens to it, you have to insure it. And there's remediation at the end, you know, dealing with how do you dispose of the batteries, that kind of thing. So like understanding that whole possibility would be the comprehensive element of it, would be maybe something we can, you know, put on our study. It might be something interesting to give the CAC to look at. I don't know, or staff at CAC, but.
Good, I mean, in my view, they'd need to pull all of the research that was done back in February.
Okay,
I think I'd have to talk with Roy more about it, but adding a clause that just gives us the right. If not a first right of refusal, but at least sort of the opportunity and see what that does to a term sheet.
Yeah.
And what that does to negotiations.
yes.
Thank you for the presentation. What's the life cycle to do that around 15 years now, or what is?
No, yeah, they don't think they last that long. These contracts are guaranteeing the capacity for duration of the contract, and the operator and developer will, in this case, have to replenish and augment the battery throughout the term of the contract. Just like your cell phone batteries, they will degrade.
About how long? 5 years?
Yeah, that I would say about that. They slowly degrade. They slowly degrade, and then we have in our contract requirements of certain performance. And then they will look at all the batteries in the project and determine, okay, if the total capacity is falling below the threshold that is required in the contract, then they will have to start replenishing. So that's how they're going to evaluate that. Yeah.
All right, yes, Director Monroe.
I think you sent out this,
2 contracts.
right, for whatever reason. I guess my system just kicked it out because of I didn't get it, so I assume though, these are essentially power purchase. Correct?
It's a little different from the renewable power purchase agreement. It's really like a tolling agreement. We're using the equipment.
Using what?
We're using the battery as an equipment so we're gonna charge the battery using grid power.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna discharge it back to the grid. So it's just kind of it's like a lease, right? We're using the
So the battery.
arbitrage.
Right, but the batteries lease us essentially? Is that-
Yeah, we have operational, well, they operate it, but we have the say on how to operate a battery in the market.
Right. So the question that Rick asked was one that I was thinking about. Which is, if you build over a former site that had that could potentially produce methane, right? And there was some sort of short, right, within the battery. One fails, and that triggers a fire. So they're operating, we're leasing. Is there an indemnification agreement to us that says, yeah, we just set the city aflame?
Yeah, so
Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
What happens?
so first let me try to find out what the methane.
No, there's an indemnity agreement in the PPA, so, yeah.
Yeah, we're as the off-taker not responsible for those risks, and that's another reason why we probably don't want to own a project of that size, and when we don't have the experience. I'm sure the developer will have insurance of their own. There's insurance requirements in the PPA as well, and that they insure them from these occurrences. But the risk is really on them. For us, it's probably more of a reputational risk. If that happens, we're the off-taker, will probably be named in an article. But no, I mean, if the project really breaks down, then we have clauses in the contract that protect us against, basically, they can't perform, then they will have to reimburse us up to the security amount.
So, and my final question is ownership of IFA, I think that's the firm, it's owned by Blackstone, private equity firm. They will, on the drop of a dime, sell a property if they think they could they can make money. What would it look like if, let's say, Blackstone actually said, you know what, we're taking this portfolio, it's gone, it's out. We actually saw one of those, right, where Blackstone owned one of, did they buy into one of ours, Rick, or did they sell one of ours? It was one of our PPAs where I thought that Blackstone was playing a role in on one side or the other. Is that a problem?
Carlos, is the concern that they were gonna sell the project to somebody else and we wouldn't even know it is?
No. Well, so in that transaction, my assumption is we have a contract with them. This not a PPA, it's this hybrid thing, we're releasing power in, power out. We're not affected by that transaction, is my question.
Yeah.
We're not affected, but the contract is written in such a way that we're not affected by that transaction. That the owner of the fiscal asset turns out to be, they move it to a new company, they sell the company. We have our contract, it's intact.
Yeah, there's
integrated.
right. So all of our PPAs or storage agreements, we require that the counterparty establish a special purpose company, the LLC, that's a Gabriel LLC. So that's just a company that owns this project, right? So if they want to sell the project to somebody else other than for the purpose of financing, we have consent. Right? We'll find out. But our real protection is the security that we have on hand from these companies. It's really not the parent company that's liable. It's just that company that we sign contract with, and the performance and development security that we have in hand.
Right, the company we signed, but I'm sorry, somebody's saying something.
Please, go ahead.
The company that we signed the contract with is not Blackstone, right? They own this particular company, formerly Canadian company that they acquired, I believe. Right?
Yeah.
Put it into their energy portfolio, I guess.
Right,
That's
right,
right?
Yeah, so there's layers of org chart, right, all the way come down to the project entity LLC that we're contracting with.
But yeah, so this project is an LLC of IPA, yes, is that right?
Right,
Okay.
so it sits under IPA Power,
Right.
Development LLC, IPA Power. It's ultimately a Blackstone portfolio.
Could sell someone else, like anyone, that happens,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yeah, if it happens. Yeah, if it happens very upstream, then we might not have a say in it, but if they're selling just the level above us, we probably have a consent right to the sale. But regardless, what's protecting the financial interest is the security that we have.
Well, define what the security.
The security is the X millions of dollars that we have in hand as a letter of credit from. So we can draw on it based on the provisions of the contract.
That they maintain through the life of this 15 years.
Yes, they have a development security right now, and then once the project starts commercial operation, they'll replace development security with performance security. Millions of dollars.
Everybody okay with that?
Thank you.
All right. If no more questions, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to any members of the public.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
One more question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is
Sure.
kind of tangential, but I think could be important for the board, which is, this is a standalone storage project, which is quite a bit different from a storage project that is cited at, for example, a solar project where we're off taking the power. I mean, it certainly helps us to have the storage. We probably need it irregardless, but it strikes me that it's most valuable to have the storage at the site where we're generating particularly solar power, because it could be curtailed during those times when the grid is too full to add additional power. And we could throw that power into battery storage, generating power in the battery rather than curtailing the power and losing the value from the solar arrays. So Are we, where we don't currently have solar at our PPA sites where we're taking power from substantial solar, are we working to get power, battery
Co-located.
co-located? Yeah.
Yeah, your description is accurate. I mean, it would be preferable that the storage asset is right next to the solar, and they don't have to be physically located in the same place as long as they go into the same pricing node of the ISO, then it will help to reduce curtailment. Yes, we are looking at more solar plus storage projects in our next RFO. With this procurement, we are pretty much done with standalone storage for now. We'll need more renewable generation because this doesn't generate any renewable, right? It just shifts. So in the current RFO that's open, that's closing tomorrow, we're targeting more renewable and renewable plus storage.
But it shifts only that power that we're able to put onto the grid.
Mhm.
If we're curtailed, it doesn't, we're not shifting power, we're just losing power, right?
Right, if we decide to curtail the energy, then it's not stored. Yeah, but like you said, battery will help with the curtailment issue because we can put in the battery instead of curtailing it.
Thanks.
Yeah, ideally, they should be co-located.
All right, then I'll go ahead and take public comment. Anything, Brianna, on these two topics? Okay, anything? Nope. All right, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Does anyone else have a comment or any questions, or would someone like to make a motion? So moved from, is that Harvey? And a second by Director Hindi. Director Hindi will make a second. All those, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Taylor County. Atherton.
Yes.
Belmont.
Yes.
Brisbane. Yes. Burlingame.
Yes.
Colma.
Yes.
Daly City. East Palo Alto.
Yes.
Foster City.
Yeah.
Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Hillsborough. Yes. Los Baños. Circle back. Menlo Park.
Yes.
Millbrae. Pacifica.
Aye.
Portola Valley.
Yes.
Redwood City. Yes. San Bruno.
Yes.
San Carlos.
Yes.
San Mateo.
Yes.
South San Francisco. Woodside. Los Baños. Motion passes.
All right, we have one more item that Sean is gonna lead, and then we're gonna go quickly into closed session to discuss Sean's contract. So we should, our goal is to really try to be out of here just over, maybe by 9:15. The benefit of all this on one meeting agenda is we're gonna give everybody a break in July and we're gonna have a month off, so we just had to put a few extra things on to get it all done.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Okay, so our last agenda item tonight is talking about some proposed administrative updates to our JPA agreement. Our JPA agreement. The quick background, thank you. The quick background here is that when we, and really led by Nellie, were reviewing our internal operating policies, we noticed a number of places where there just were things that were either outdated in the JPA agreement, were in conflict with one another, and or duplicative. And so we did a deep dive review of policies 14, 15, and 16. You all approved those tonight on consent because the executive committee had approved them unanimously and then brought forward the recommendation. The JPA amendments that are proposed are primarily administrative. They don't change anything really of content or substance about the agency. Once the board, we hope, approves this tonight, then the JPA agreement will be sent out to our member agencies for a 30-day comment period, and then it will come back to you in August for final adoption. So very briefly here, I also want to remind you, let's see, hold on, there should be a memo. Thank you. Oh, that's right, sorry. I want to thank Director DeGolia for having an eagle eye and finding just a couple of errors numerically in the relationship between policy 16 and the JPA agreement. These are described here. And I just want to make you aware that, they will be included in their administrative errors. Okay. So the changes that we're talking about would be to, move the director's emeritus section to policy 16. Add board authorities for the PUC, for the, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and other agency filings, just to bring that current and up to date. To move the discussion of the dollar value, the signing authority that the CEO has over to policy 14. That means that if it needs to change up or down, it's more easily done through the policy. All of these things get adopted by the board. The next will be to update officer term limits. Right now, it's proposed from a maximum of 3 years down to 2 years to align with local election cycles. The next is updating the right to withdraw from 6 months to 12 months. 6 months really was at the outset, and 12 months better aligns with the requirements of resource adequacy. The last is to update the budget language to reflect our current practice. So that one was just simply an administrative update. So are there any questions about, excuse me, the proposed changes? Any comments? The recommendation is to approve them and then to authorize us sending it out for the 30-day comment period.
Does anyone have, yes?
30-day comment period, do you need any help from us, or you just send it to our city managers and wait 30 days?
That's right, it does not require, that was a good question. It does not go back to the board of directors for a separate adoption.
As our liaison
Or the council.
with our town.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Thank you.
Questions? All right. I'll go ahead and open this to members of the public that might have a comment. Anyone, Brianna? Okay, anyone? Okay, no, okay. There's no public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion on this? All right, we have a motion by Director Lorraine, second by Director Fung. All those in favor, please, I guess, roll call vote one more time.
San Mateo County. San Mateo County. Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont,
Yes.
Horace Bay. Yep. Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma. Daly City. East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough. Yes. Los Baños,
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Aye.
Pacifica,
Yeah.
Portola Valley,
Yes.
Redwood City. Yes. San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco. Woodside. Motion passes.
Okay, great. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna ask everyone who has dishes or garbage to just move them quickly into the kitchen. We're gonna break the Donna Colson rule because staff is gonna hustle these through the wash while we are closed session. So this gives everybody time to leave and thank everyone. I will take it.